Africa, tujikaze, tujikaze, America, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javan Okelo, live from Seattle, Washington, USA.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Daily African Proverbs. My name is Simon Javan Okelo, and I am in Seattle, Washington. I am from Kenya originally. I am a bit under the weather, so I just wanted to, make sure I show up for this session because it's important to me, and I was already awake anyway, so I was, I just felt that the right thing to do is to show up and to bring the Daily African Proverbs to you as usual. So I hope you are doing well. We are taking a virtual journey to Equatorial Guinea, and our proverb today says that the rabbit that stays in a hole must be ready to face the hunter's fire. I just want you to think about that for a moment, and I want to invite you to share your interpretation as well in a moment. But I want you to know that this is the Daily African Proverbs. We do this every single day, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we've been doing this, since January last year. So it's been over a year since we started doing the Daily African Proverbs, and we are live streaming this conversation on YouTube, and I'll be adding the link to the YouTube conversation in just a moment. But I'm just grateful that you're here. When I look at this proverb, the rabbit that stays in a hole must be ready to face the hunter's fire. It reminds me about another proverb in my mother tongue, in Luo. Luo is my mother tongue. And that proverb says that, when you take a shower, you need to move away and dry at a different spot. Once you shower, you don't stay at the same spot to dry, but you move and let other people, take the position where you were before. So this proverb reminds me that you should not stay in the same hole, but you should move, at least in this case for safety, because if you stay in the same hole, the hunter is going to, light that hole with fire, looking for you or something else. But if you stay at the same spot, the hunter is going to catch up with you. So I just wanted to share that in opening our session today, and I want to invite Dr. No Days Off to share his interpretation of this proverb, and then we'll hear from Wanda, and then I invite you to join us on stage as well so that we can hear many voices. This is going to be a 1-hour conversation, and then after that we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much. Dr. No Days Off, the mic is yours.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Simon. Good morning, Happy New Year to you. I know we spoke via email a couple times, but I haven't been on the African Proverbs all week. Last week we were dealing with this winter storm that hit Virginia and stuff. We lost power for a while, but anyways, this proverb is a very powerful proverb, something that I talk about all the time when it comes to my leadership approach, my 3XP leadership approach, and that's the tenet of always moving forward, because basically when you're sitting in one spot, you are allowing negativity. You're allowing people and your enemy to build up against you. You have to be able to learn to move forward. One of the things I always taught my children growing up, and how to be a leader, and when I'm talking more in leadership, is you got to understand something. Your life is predestined to move, right? And it's predestined to have certain roadblocks and obstacles in the way, and certain people to come against you. That's the way your life is. That's the way your mission and your goal is predestined for. Well, when and you're supposed to move at one speed. You're supposed to move, at the or you're supposed to move a little faster than the speed limit that's been set for everybody else. See, because what you fail to realize is that what happens is when you're in one location and you have those naysayers and those negative people against you, you got to understand that life is going to move forward, and you're still going to move forward to your destiny. The world is not going to stop spinning because you decide to sit in one spot, right? And if you allow that to take place and you do that, and those naysayers and those enemies come against you, then as you're moving forward, guess what's going to happen? And you're moving at a slower speed. Guess what's going to happen? The naysayers and the enemy that you're supposed to meet, the new level that you're supposed to meet further ahead, but they're going to now have backup because you're not moving at a speed that allows them to get left behind. I always say you never slow down for someone else to catch up with you. If someone else wants to run with you, if my enemies want to run with me, or my enemies want to find me, then they're going to have to keep up with my pace and they're going to keep up with my speed. I do not slow down for my enemy. I do not sit in a cubbyhole and hide and attempt to hide from them. No, I move forward because I know, just like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, you don't have to see the whole staircase. You don't have to see the whole journey. All you have to do is just take the next step. And as long as I keep taking the next step, then there's no way that I am going to fall prey to the hunter's fire. See, that is something that a lot of people do when they come across mishaps and they come across misfortune. One of the main things that they do is they want to stop. You don't stop in the midst of a storm because the storm is moving. If the storm is moving towards you and you're moving towards the storm, then if you keep moving, because the storm is going to keep moving. But if you keep moving, then what happens is you're going to get through the storm a lot faster than you would if you just stop and stop in place, right? So you have to be able to learn how to move, and you have to continue moving at your speed, because that if you continue moving at your speed, the naysayers and the enemy that comes along, they can't keep up with you. And guess what? They get tired. They stop chasing you, right? And then and you do not fall prey to their fire. And I turn the platform back over to you, Simon.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I agree. If you keep moving, and you encounter a storm, you go through that storm a little faster. But if you stay at the same spot, the storm will carry you with it. So thank you for that, Doctor. No days off. I'm just happy that you're back on the platform. To everybody who is just joining us, welcome to the Daily African Proverbs. This is a sacred space. We've been hosting these sessions here since January last year, and we've been consistent with it, and we've been persistent in a very stubborn way. And so if you want to join us on YouTube, we are also live streaming over there. The link is at the top of the room. And now I want to move on to Wanda. Wanda, share with us your perspectives on today's proverb from Equatorial Guinea.
Good morning, Simon. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is well today. When I first heard the proverb, what came to mind was my mother, who I lost a little over a year ago, and today is her birthday. So the day is, in this year, the whole represented to me like fear and grief. And how sometimes, as Dr. Node stated, you can be stuck in that. And that fear of the movement and maybe shifting to a new hole, right? The hole for the rabbit was a sense of safety and security, but now they need to shift a little bit. So it doesn't mean that you will not have a hole that protects you. It might look a little bit different. So it's important, as Dr. Node also said, to kind of move forward, to try to find that new place that will keep you comfort. So for me, thinking about that from my mom, it's finding it's not forgetting her, not shutting that out, and in a way just recognizing the grief, but finding the comfort that she provided me, and maybe in a different way going forward. She's not here in the presence, but it's important for me to kind of shift that, to continue to have that sense of safety, um, um, in my life. So this is Wanda, and I'm done speaking.
Thank you so much, Wanda. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for, your share with us. And, it's really amazing how these proverbs, they mean different things to different people. So I appreciate the story you shared with us about your mom as well. And I also want to encourage everyone in the room. There are many ways that you can help bring more people into this conversation, especially on Clubhouse. Number one, there's at the bottom of your screen, at the far left corner, there's a way you can now share this conversation with people on Clubhouse or other platforms. Number two, you can also ping people into the room using the plus button right next to the hand raising button. You can use that to ping 3 to 5 people into the room. So I encourage you to do that now while we are early into the conversation. And now I want to welcome Hazel. Hazel, thank you for being here. I hope you had a nice weekend. Share with us your perspectives on today's proverb. Oh, Hazel, the way that you unmute is at the bottom right corner. Oh, there you are.
Thank you, Simon. I was struggling. I was trying to find the mute button. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for resuming the African Proverbs. So for me, when I saw this proverb, what came to my mind was, being in a sense of safety, and then feelings of shame, maybe after a traumatic event or something that's unplanned, that's just sudden and that shakes you. So as a rabbit, like, you run to a place that you feel safe. But sometimes if you let the feelings of shame overwhelm you and control your life over a long period of time, they might come other things then that consume you and destroy you. So you have to run, find a place to hide and recuperate and maybe hibernate for a time, but then you have to come out of that hole and face life again.
Yeah, I love that. As you're speaking, I was also reminded of our own, whenever we are in our own households, we feel so safe. But these days, we are faced, for example, myself, last year during the Christmas season, my house flooded 3 times. And I realized that the answer in that case was climate change, while I felt that, we kind of live on top of a hill. So I didn't imagine flooding coming to our place. And I was literally, doing the daily African Proverbs. And when I walked out of the office space where, I am right now, right outside the door, there was water everywhere, So until recently is when we've resolved it, So Hazel, as you're speaking, it reminded me much about a lot of the time we feel very safe and comfortable once we get to our houses. We forget to look at the drainage. We forget to pay even attention to what's going on with climate change and how could it actually impact me where I am, So things like gardening, there are things that we could also do around our houses. Growing up in Kenya, we used to garden a lot in our backyard and things like that. But living in the diaspora, we depend so much on things that we buy from the store. So we forget that the pandemic could come and we would not even have a chance to go to the store as regularly as you'd like. But it would be liberating to have your own little garden in your backyard. So I just feel that there's so much that we could unpack from this proverb. Thank you, Hazel, and welcome everyone who has just joined us in the room. This is the Daily African Proverbs, and we are here to make our ancestors proud. When we dissect these proverbs, we literally discuss things that our parents and our ancestors, their parents, discussed daily. My mother, is someone that used these proverbs. Whenever I made a mistake, she would use a proverb. Whenever I did something wonderful, she would use a proverb. Whenever, the food was good at the table, someone would use a proverb, So these are things that my hope is we build a community where we bring African proverbs and African wisdom to the forefront of our conversations. That's the hope, that as you leave this room today, you live a little wiser and you live with a little toolkit of wisdom that you can face your day and your life with. With that, I want to move on to Zizi. Zizi, I hope you're doing well. Share with us your perspectives on today's proverb.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful day. My interpretation of this one is that if we choose security and safety instead of taking a few calculated risks, then we will not be advancing. So we have to make sure that we take a little bit of calculated risks. So that's me. Thank you so much for asking.
Oh, you're welcome, Zizi. It's always a pleasure having you here. Yeah, you have to balance. You have to balance between, safety and calculated risk. When do you do what? So that's a great perspective. I hope you can stay with us. I'm going to do another round with everybody on the stage, just to capture some of your thoughts, because when you share your own perspective, it's something that you probably thought about when you came into the room, because many of you already saw this proverb on my Instagram account where I share it prior to this conversation. So I also love hearing what people have to say after they've listened to everyone else who is in the room and who has shared, their perspectives on the proverb. So I'm very curious to hear what you say in just a moment, because I'm going to pass this microphone to you all in just a moment. Just want to welcome Sarah and Kesiwa and Dr. Moby the Explorer, Fred, Shakwana, Joanne, Roger, Ned, everybody who is here with us. You're truly appreciated. I want to encourage you to ping in 3 to 5 people to join us as well, and also share this room. There's a new way that you can share these types of conversations on Clubhouse. If you go to the bottom left of the room, there's that share button that you can use to share this conversation within Clubhouse or outside of Clubhouse. Now we want to move on to Joseph Kafunda. My brother, I hope you're doing well. Share with us your perspectives on today's proverb. Thank you so much.
Good day, Simon. Good day, everyone. Simon, we're doing great, and the year is just begin quite early, and project proposals are coming in, so we're doing fantastic. We can't complain. Can't wait to travel to go and explore Angola within 2 weeks' time. Other than that, the Proverbs, Simon, like you said, is an African. Me personally, I grew up in a village with both grandfather and grandmother, and Proverbs was the way of us to speak in each and every day of our life. Like you said, your mother used Proverbs. My grandfather mostly used Proverbs, even when he has to tell you something that you have to go and do. But the way he's gonna tell it to you, it's gonna be like in the form of a story. And today, the Proverbs is really reminding me of my grandfather when we used to walk going to plow the field. He will use different proverbs. He will tell you, once you fall down, don't continue walking, but stop walking and watch your feet or look at your feet. There might be something that it's walking dangerous, or something very dangerous that it's just about to hurt you. So I look at today's Proverbs and I look at what my grandfather used to tell me. I compare the two of them and I see that actually what he used to say to me, it's really matter and it makes sense today when you read that the rabbit that stay in a hole must be ready to face the hunter's fire. Because if you are walking and don't look down, but you are walking only up straight, you won't know the danger that is coming in front of you or the one who's coming at the bottom of you. So that's why it's always very, very good when you are doing anything. Always take one step forward and look backwards so that you can see what is happening. Otherwise, this rabbit, when it goes and stay in a hole, it will not know what is the plan behind. So it's basically you have to speak so that you can change. And in order to change, you need to speak up. So the rabbits need to learn from both ways. If I hide, then I must be able to accept the consequences. So it's same as us when we speak, are we going to influence people? Or if we influence those people, can we be able to make the change against or to them? So it's basically it's telling us quite a deep, deep story. This proverbs. For now, this is what I'm going to share with everyone. I thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, my brother Joseph Kafunda. It's as you are sharing, the choices that you have to make as you move, especially when you're moving in the bush. The way you're describing that you used to move with your grandfather, it reminded me much about how we used to live in the slum. I grew up in Manyata slum in Kisumu, Kenya, and it was much like a jungle because sometime there's a gang that is coming after you and you have the choice of hiding. Like this rabbit had the choice of hiding, or it could get out of that hole and move on to a different spot. So when you hide, you're probably going to get caught, and you're going to be in hot soup. But if you keep moving, you might be much ahead of whoever is coming after you, similar to what Dr. Nodezoff was saying earlier. So making choices requires wisdom, even if you're in a situation of so much tension and anxiety. So thank you again, and welcome everyone who is just joining us. This is the Daily African Proverbs, and we are here on Clubhouse as well as YouTube. If you want to join the YouTube conversation, the link is at the top of the room. We are live streaming and also recording this conversation for the African Father in America podcast. We do this every single day with the hopes that we help preserve African culture, one proverb at a time. Now we want to move on to Christine. Christine, share with us your perspectives on this proverb. When you read this proverb from the Equatorial Guinea, what comes to your mind?
Hi, good morning. I'm Christine. I'm out here driving. It's a beautiful sunshiny day, but it's very cold out here. But it feels good. But thank you. Thank you for asking me to come up to the stage. And as I read this proverb, the rabbit that stays in a hole must be ready to face the hunter's fire. And when I think of a hole, I think of outside, enclosed and dark, and there's no light except for if you look up. So, if you stay in that hole, in that dark hole, where there's surrounded by darkness or mud or whatever it may be, and the only light that you can see is up, that's telling you something there that life is not to be surrounded in darkness and where we can't move and flourish and create and do the things that we want. So if we stay in that position for a long period of time, we will subdue ourselves. So we have to look up. We have to constantly keep moving forward, to produce, to help others, to make our community better. So we really have to look and let that light shine upon us and let that light just guide us, to perfection in life as much as possible. Thank you so much. I'm Christine, and I'm done speaking.
Oh, you're welcome, Christine, and be safe and enjoy the sun. It's winter time, and whenever there's even a little glimpse of the sun, you just want to bask in it. So, enjoy your drive. And I want to move on to the amazing Sarah. Sarah, share with us what your perspectives on this proverb is.
Hi, Simon. Sorry, I'm walking away from my phone. I've got my AirPods on. When you said amazing, Sarah, I had to come and double check. So let me not be too much ego. Maybe there's another Sarah on the stage. Um,
You're the only amazing Sarah.
Thank you. You've given me a cold from across the Atlantic, so thank you so much. Excuse my husky voice. I'm glad you're sounding better. Thank you for inviting me up. Actually, I'm thinking, gosh, I've told you before, like I listened to so many stories from my grandfather, and again, growing up in the United Kingdom, I'm paralleling this one from the stories that the fairy stories about rabbits. So sort of the Alice in Wonderland and the innocence of a rabbit, and they're always sweet stories, whether they're Easter bunnies or what have you. And it reminds me of the time when my grandmother were telling me Sudanese or African stories, and I was like, why are they like they're always like full of like blood, or like they're always quite scary. Like, why are they not cute and fuzzy and cuddly like the English stories? So this reminded me of that when I first read it. That you were discussing this, because that's one parallel. Is like there's something unchildlike about, you would normally find a rabbit in such hot danger in stories from the global north. So pick a tiger or a snake or something. Do you know what I mean? So that I found interesting. But again, I'm paralleling this to. I was just trying to find it now. Do you know the book Who Moved My Cheese? Have you heard of that? I don't know if anyone's um, read that. It's really like a very concise tale of that. These, they were actually rats, I think. And again, this is burying and going down a maze and trying to find their way. And the two there were mice, actually, yeah, the two mice that moved forward and kept going, they succeeded, and the ones that hesitated, oh god, I'm really mixing this up. Someone save me if you know this story better than I do. But yeah, the moral, I believe, with the cheese being the money, the asset, the wealth, the whatever, however you interpret more, um, that sitting still once you have it is it's not enough, and that you have to keep going, and you have to keep finding more, and don't presume that you're just going to have something forever. Like, nothing is forever. um and that you have to keep assessing and keep yourself nimble in life, and know that just you can't rest. And yeah, I going back again to my grandfather, who was never a good sleeper. He was a writer, so he would kind of be up all night writing. And when he used to wake up, I'd say, "Gosh, Baba, when do you sleep?" And he'd say to me, "My dear," he's like, "there's plenty of time to sleep later. I'll sleep when I'm dead." And in his lifetime, he did so much and achieved so much. And Simon, how proud I am of him. I'm always talking about him. But yeah, and that standing still is not an option. And it reminds me of the African excellence that is embedded in our storytelling and in our way of life. Like, you can't be mediocre, and you will get yourself in you know in the face of danger if you rest, basically. Which again doesn't sound nice, but I think there is a thrill in keeping one on their toes, whether it be more, our social mobility, or keeping moving forward, or immigration, or exploring, or meritocracy. I love that about my African family and friends and communities, that there's always an appetite to move forward, and that emotion does come from motion. You have to like feel life and keep moving, and not so much for me away from the hunter, even though we do kind of feel hunted, but that's another conversation in many ways. But it's towards something. It's not from something away from something else. So that's how I interpret it. I'm sorry, I'm done speaking. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, you know, I just love listening to the stories and how the stories actually depict and they bring an image that help, you know, they help me understand these proverbs better, and I hope that they also help everyone else who is in the room understand these proverbs better. And thank you again, Sarah, for your contribution and for your leadership. I want to welcome everyone else who has just joined us on stage. Thank you for being here with us, and also everyone who is in the audience. This is a good time for you to join us on stage. I will be turning off hand raising in about 5 minutes. So this is a good time for you to join us so that we can also hear your voice and your perspectives on today's proverb. I also want to encourage you to ping in 3 to 5 people into the room to join us for today's daily African proverbs. With that, we are going to move on to Davon. Davon, share with us your perspective on today's proverb.
Hello, good morning, everyone. So for me, when I'm hearing about the proverb, I really took mostly about choices, and I wanted to expand on what everyone has already said. I apologize if it's a repetitive because I didn't join like when it started. But for me, when I think about the rabbit that stays in the hole must be ready to face the hunter's fire, I think about life. I think about the journey and what we choose to do with it. Like, for instance, the rabbit leaving the hole. When you decide to do that, then you are in control in some way, in some capacity, not fully, but you make decisions that can lead to other things. But if you choose to stay in the hole, then it is as though, one would let the world or the journey control them. So, just to kind of expand on that, when you stay stagnant, be ready for what is to come, instead of, the contrary. And with that, I'm done speaking.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Davon, for being here and for sharing your perspectives with us. Dana, thank you so much for being here with us. I would love to hear your perspectives as well. Thanks a lot.
Good morning, Simon, and good morning, everyone else. I hope everyone is well. We're just recovering. We live in Virginia, and we had that bad snowstorm, so we were out without power for 4 days. But hey, it was a blessing because we still had a roof over our head. We were all happy and healthy, and so I'm grateful for that. But um, the rabbit that stays in a hole must be ready to face the hunter's fire. Um, this really says a lot of different things to me, but what stands out the most is fear of using your voice and fear of change. One of the most challenging things for a lot of people is change. That's why when a natural disaster happens and people have to uproot from what they've known all their life and move somewhere else where they don't, they become uncomfortable, but they don't understand. We as people, we have evolved so much over the years and decades, and it's that willingness to evolve and not be afraid of change is where great networks are built, where if you've been praying something, the God and universe aligns you with whom or what you're looking for. Fear paralyzes us. I used to have a rabbit, and he was a big rabbit because he was a German jackrabbit. And I just remember watching him. If you keep a rabbit confined, they or any animal, they only grow to a certain point. If they're a tiger, they become more subtle and more obedient and more restricted. More, you're able to control them in that hole, in that cage. But if you take that shark or that tiger, and they're in their natural element, they're out in nature, there's a instinct that comes out of them. There is a empowerment that comes out of them because they are no longer confined. If you do the same thing with a person, then it has the same effect as a baby elephant putting a ball and chain on a baby elephant, and that baby elephant is trying to break it, and the baby elephant physically can't. But once that elephant becomes an adult elephant, that adult elephant has no idea that now they can break that chain. But that trainer knows that if they planted that seed young in that elephant, that elephant is not strong enough, then the elephant doesn't know. Well, when we put ourselves in a hole where we choose not to grow, we choose not to be open minded, we choose not to educate ourselves, we choose not to empower ourselves, we lose our voice. I apologize, that's my 4-month-old grandson talking. Um, and so to me, what the proverb is talking about is if you keep yourself in a hole, there's a part of you that just dies. You just give up. You quit. You become submissive. All of us, we've worked jobs, and when you work a job and you have no voice, your boss treats you any kind of way. They talk to you any kind of way. You're underpaid, you're underworked, and all these negative things. And that's what happens when you stay in that hole. Whatever that entity is that hunter's fire. So if you want to not just survive, but you want to live, then you have to be willing to get out of that hole, broaden your horizons, stand for something, demand and take what's yours. The hunter, yes, the hunter has a gun and all those things, but that rabbit is small. The rabbit's quick. The rabbit has instinct. And if the rabbit chooses to be a fighter, the rabbit can outsmart the hunter and get away. So thank you again, Simon, for allowing me to speak on your platform, and I turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Dana. I agree. If the rabbit chooses to fight, it can definitely outsmart the hunter. My brother Johnny, share with us your perspectives on today's proverb. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brother Simon, as always, for hosting this platform and for inviting me up. When I think of the proverb today, that the rabbit that stays in the hole must be ready to face the hunter's fire, I got two different sentiments that come to my mind. And the first one is a very, very wise quote that says, "Many of false steps have been made by standing still." And so sometimes we think we have to move, we have to go, or we think staying put is the best option. But many false steps have been made by standing still. But I also think of the nature of a rabbit. And I remember reading the autobiography of Malcolm X, I believe. And I remember hearing about how a young Malcolm was out with some older gentlemen who used to hunt rabbits. Malcolm had a neighbor who would pay him for rabbits he hunted, even though that neighbor didn't necessarily even need the food or the rabbit, the meat from the rabbit. But Malcolm had figured out something about rabbits while hunting and trapping with this older gentleman. And that was that the rabbit, once startled from its original position, no matter how far it traveled, will always end up coming back to the original spot it ran from. So the rabbit that stays in the hole must be ready to face the hunter's fire, but the rabbit that isn't mindful of his actions and behaviors must also be ready to face the hunter's fire. And I yield my microphone.
Thank you, Johnny. I love that story. I love that story. and I understand how Malcolm was able to catch so many rabbits that way. You have to study nature in order for you to live with nature. I appreciate that. Now we want to move on to Danielle. Danielle, share with us your perspectives as well.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Simon, for this space as always. When listening to the two people ahead of me as I came into the space late, I was certainly reminded of, especially when I think it was Donna that spoke, uh, listening and thinking about the word fear and what that means. And so my perspective on this proverb definitely relates to fear and what fear is within our lives. I feel that fear, the total absence of fear is something that doesn't exist. And instead, what matters and what we should concentrate on is how we channel fear and what our relationships with fear is. And so I feel the rabbit that stays in his hole engages in fear differently from the one that comes out of it. And I think the major difference is a word that we call bravery or courage. And it makes a big difference in how we advance or we don't advance in life. And so, in thinking of fear, I think it's a necessary thing. And of course, depending on how much of it we're having to channel, it can also bring different outcomes. And so, as I mentioned before, fear is necessary, and it's important that we use it to our advantage. And it's actually a good thing. I mean, the absence of fear is also, I think, brings on stagnation, and it doesn't help with motivation. Fear, some people may not think of this way, but fear is I think motivating depending on how you look at it. And so, as mentioned before, this proverb for me reminds me of fear as a necessary part of our lives. I yield my mic. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I agree. I feel that fear, if you're not afraid, then you should be afraid. Anyhow, thank you so much. Now I want to welcome Emmanuel T. Emmanuel, share with us your perspectives on this proverb from Equatorial Guinea.
Hey everybody, thank you Simon for allowing me to speak on stage. I hope you guys can hear me well.
No, we cannot hear you well. I wonder if you can come closer to your mic. There was also some noise in the background.
Get it a better place. How's this?
Yeah,
Is this better?
yeah, that's better, much better.
Okay, sorry about that.
It's okay.
From just my the way that I understood the what the proverbs for me, I just compare it to life, just to piggyback on what Donna said that throughout the centuries we evolve. And I feel like the person or the rabbit that stays in the hole, the person that stay in their comfort zone and don't want to evolve and adapt with time. They'll always be a hunter, uh, given that being a rabbit. But with just time, we have to learn to get out of our comfort zone and learn to adapt, whether it's in life or in business. Compared to like Blockbuster, I felt like was the rabbit that stayed in the comfort hole and wasn't able to adapt to what was going on. And just same thing in life too as well. If we don't learn to adapt to an environment, get out of our basically just summing up what everybody else, what the last few person that I've heard, if we don't get out of just overcome the fear will always be there. We just need the courage to push on through it, and we'll have better chance to adapt and to fight the hunters that's out there to get after us. That was all, and I yield the mic.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Now, we are coming close to the end of our conversation, and because we don't have a special guest, typically I have a guest with me on YouTube that we host, but today everybody here is a special guest, and I want to just give 30 seconds closing remarks to everybody on stage. Just quickly, what is your takeaway today? What is it that you've learned from hearing everybody that you're taking away from this conversation with you? So we'll start with Dr. No Days Off just briefly, then we go to Wanda briefly. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Simon. It's like everyone is saying. You have to move forward. You have to be able to control fear. Because, like the young lady said, I think it was Donnell that said, talk about fear. Fear is necessary. Fear is necessary. You cannot have courage without fear. It's just that people who are courageous and people who are leaders and people who move forward, they learn how to use their fear as fuel instead of letting their fear drown them in their current situation and in their current state. But everyone here has some great words of wisdom about this proverb, and so I turn the platform back over to you, Simon.
Thank you so much. Let's hear from Wanda. Closing remarks, please.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Simon, so much for hosting the space. It was wonderful conversation today. I think I just echo what everyone's saying. It's about the, the through line was the fear, right? But most importantly is what you do with it. So I'm really walking away with that and walking away with the lesson that it's necessary and to be brave. So thank you, everyone. And this is Wanda. I'm done.
Excellent. Thank you, Wanda. Hey, Azel, the mic is yours.
Thank you. So my takeaways were you don't have to shun away from fear, because fear can be a driving force. Thank you so much for that, because fear used to just paralyze me. So I'll work on using fear in a positive way. Thank you. I'm done.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Zizi, how about you? Share your closing remarks.
My closing remarks is this is a wonderful room, and you're running a wonderful educational proverb room for all of us. And we have to be proud that as Africans, we're still saying proverbs that our parents used to tell us and using proverbs. And that example that you gave of this particular proverb is that we really should always choose calculated risks rather than security, because in security there is stagnation and lack of movement. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Joseph, how about you?
Simon, it's always hard to be given to speak the last words in this room. I just want to say, keep the vibe continuing, keep the vibe, and let's continue sharing and keeping African dreams alive, because this is what we can be able to tell our grandchildren, that there was a gentleman, or there was a proverb which we read each and every day started by a gentleman called Simon. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Thank you, Joseph. Christine, how about you?
Thank you. Thank you, Simon. I love this. I love this room. My last words would be that survival skills that we have to intake and start thinking about. Sometimes we may have to put our mindset into the creatures of animals, and because we can learn a lot from them. So I think a lot of times we forget about survival skills, but as we move forward into this world, and as the world is changing, it's constantly changing. Um, Pretty soon, this will be an avatar type of world we're living in, and survival skills are very important. Thank you, and everyone have a blessed day.
You're most welcome. Sarah, share with us your closing remarks.
I was just thinking how in the last 18 months or 2 years, there's so much talk about self-care and rest and treating oneself, and it is all absolutely true. But I think in the last half an hour listening to everybody, I you know you really opened my eyes to the fact that I've perhaps taken self-care into hibernation, and on the grounds that I'm resting, or I need this time, or this is a moment, I think I'm hiding, and I'm just this conversation now is making me kind of go, oh, okay, that's enough. We have to adjust, and we have to keep going, and it's not just about survival, but thriving, and really pleased to have caught this, and it's lovely to hear everybody's wisdom, and always a pleasure to join you, Simon. Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Thank you so much. Davon, what's your closing remarks?
Firstly, just thank you for hosting this space. I was a listener for more than I was a speaker, so I appreciate you inviting me up to the stage. My closing remarks would be, I think I kind of relate or agree with Sarah, where it's like opening my eyes to fear, but fear not in the negative light, more like as a tool that can be used in your box of resources. So thank you so much, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and hear from Dana. Dana, share with us your closing remarks, please. I know that Dana was also with the grand child, so if you're unable to get to your mic, that's fine. We'll go to Brother Johnny, but just tap your mic if you, whenever you come back, if it's before we close the room. Johnny, the mic is yours.
Thank you again, Brother Simon, and just thank you for continuously holding this space. It was almost a year ago that I had found this space, and ever since finding this space, I done found a home. And so my closing remarks is just the rabbit that stays in the hole must be ready to face the hunter fire, and the rabbit that exits the hole must be ready to face the hunter's fire. So just choose your battle.
Wow, yes, it's a battle either way. Wow, thank you. Danielle, how about you? Share your closing remarks.
Thank you, Brother Simon. For me, listening to everyone also makes me think of choices. We all have choices that determine the trajectory of our lives, and that's something that we have to accept. We have choices, whether we are stagnant and don't do anything, that itself is a choice. And so those are my closing remarks and my takeaways from this space. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Emmanuel, share with us your closing remarks.
Once again, thank you for allowing me to speak again. And just my closing remark, just to encourage everybody to be courageous. Just to be courageous is not the absence of fear. So let's take our life into our own hands and make something happen, something of it. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Brother Johnny, I see you're tapping your mic. I just want to give you a chance. Go ahead.
Oh no, brother. I was just agreeing with what Brother Emmanuel said, what Darnell said, and what everybody else had to say, specifically Sarah. Just thank you, Sarah, for your words. Sometimes we are all hiding in our own way. So just thank you, everybody, for sharing. That's all I have to say, Brother Simon.
You're most welcome. Thank you very much. Yes, Sarah is the amazing Sarah, like I was calling her earlier. And also I see Shomari, I see Bibi, I see Grace, Samara in the room. I see Hilda, Bimlak, everybody in the room. Your time with us is truly valued, and we truly appreciate you for being here with us. We will be here again tomorrow at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and also until Friday, so join us and spread the word. I am grateful, and this is now the end of our conversation today. Thank you so much.
African father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Africa, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javan Okelo, live from Seattle, Washington, USA.